Welcome to the Rethink Sales Show. My name is Derek Kelly. I'm joined by Jim Shorkey. And Jim, I just get so much feedback. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday just saying, I'm such a big fan of the show. I'm such a big fan of the show.
That's nice. That's so nice. Thank you.
And just recognizing, just people love to hear the stories about when you were in sales and sales that I've been through. And so what was a time what was your very last sale that you remember like in the car business? And what was the very first sale that you remember? And how were they different? How are they similar? Talk through that.
I can't recall those scenarios. And there's a reason why. I started selling cars in the summer of 1978.
Yeah.
And so that was my first experience with selling cars. My dad trained me A to Z. And so the first thing that happened when I started selling cars is I couldn't do it.
Wow.
I was terrible. I couldn't do it. And it turns out I wasn't really following the process. And my dad sat me down and we went through it again. And as I started to follow the process and relax, things started to happen. But I sold cars that summer, went back to college, got my degree, came back. I graduated in December of 1978, came back and sold cars in 1979 for roughly about a year. So 45 years ago. And so I started selling cars and came back and continued. And I did that through 79. And then I got moved into management from there. And so as far as my last car I sold, I really don't know. I wouldn't have any idea.
Right.
But I ended up going into the finance department, which is the financing of cars. And I went into just entry-level sales management and then progressed up from there. And as time went on, ended up being a general sales manager, which means my basic job was to manage sales. So general sales manager. And then I went on to be when my dad died March 24th, 1996, when my dad died, they called me the general manager. I really wasn't. He was the general manager. I was the general sales manager with some overlap into parts and service per se, but mainly what I did was sold cars until that point. Yeah. So I hope I can't answer your question. I don't know. I really don't know.
And what did that step from just being a salesperson to moving more into sales leadership? How was that transition for you? Was it different in your responsibilities and in your roles?
No, of course, yeah. The thing is that I was a leader. I was always a leader. And when I ran cross country and track in college, and I was a captain of 3 of those teams.
Wow.
So I was a captain, which meant that I had a responsibility to be a leader. And I just tended to fill that leadership role. So as a salesperson, I naturally, and that's what happened. I was so involved from a leadership perspective that they said, we got to move Jim up. And that was my dad, of course, but still there was a need there. And it just was what I did. And I love inspiring people, male, female, young, old, doesn't matter. I love having an inspirational viewpoint.
Yeah.
And so when you're a sales manager, your job is to manage sales, which means your job is to manage salespeople. And we've got to figure out a way as sales managers to motivate the salespeople to do what it is that we want them to do.
Yeah.
Which is, what do we want them to do?
Sell.
The process. Now, we want them to do the process. We don't want them to sell. That's going to confuse people out there, but we don't want them to sell. We want them to do the process. And the better job they do at doing the process, the more cars they are, in fact, going to sell.
Yes.
But if we focus too much on selling cars, it tends to cause us to shortcut the process. And no, what we want to do is we want to have a really good greeting, just a really good greeting. We want to give the customer our card so that they remember us. And they'll forget. That's just, we will too. And then we want to make sure at that time that we write their name down, because we're going to forget their name. And that's really an uncomfortable place to be. So if they forget our name, we forget their name, it's not good. So we're really big on the greeting and the exchanging of names and getting them documented so that we can, in fact, remember. Yeah. And then we have a process that I call qualifying, but it's not the qualifying that you would think it is.
It's not the qualifying of a lead or something.
It's so much in our world of the car business is this financial qualifying and this, are you going to buy a car today, and this and that. Our qualifying that we designed was based on wants and needs. We wanted to know really what was important to the customer.
Right.
What was important to the customer in terms of this automobile and why? And then from there, we could build a sell around that. If we could find out what the customer really wanted and needed and why they wanted it and needed it, I did it with you. And
it's very emotional. Phenomenal.
It's very emotional. And so if we can get to that point, then we can proceed to present the car from the perspective of the customer, not from the perspective of Jim Shorkey, okay? From the perspective of the customer. So as a sales manager, my job was to teach the salespeople how to do that. And I can tell you, but being very forthright, I wasn't really all that great at it because I was a taskmaster. I was a task master and maybe a little too pushy because I knew the process so well. I knew that it worked. And I just
you were like, you missed step 6.
I was a beast on that. And, and it created an environment that was, I would say, very difficult to work under. So we learned to be, that's where love the team comes from. We can teach the process to our salespeople without being mean.
Yeah.
Which I was, it just was. It was a natural progression. I was a young guy, first of all, and I don't want to make excuses because I don't think there are any excuses. It's just not good. But I was a taskmaster, and I wanted it done my way, and it was the mentality was my way or the highway kind of approach. And that's not a good approach. And I learned that over the years. That's part of the wisdom of being in business and getting your teeth kicked in a few times. People quit. That's what happened. You're a jerk, Jim. That's what happened.
So and then you got to find somebody else to replace them.
Yeah, it's hard. Stop being a jerk. Stop being a jerk. So I had to learn that, and that was the transition. So it wasn't like I went from being a salesman to being a sales manager. I went from being a salesman to learning how to lead, and that took a long time.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about, okay, I'm a sales manager, I'm a leader. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. I had to learn that. And so I learned that over a period of days, weeks, months. I learned from the best of the best. And I became a leader. And I'm a leader. But yeah, at 67 years old, I'm a much better leader than I was at 25. And I would hope that would be the case for all of us leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't really answer your question. I apologize.
No, I think you did. I was wondering about the progression of kind of moving from a salesperson to a sales leader because your role shifts. You're suddenly mentoring people, right?
Yeah.
And so what did that, as you moved from being a jerk, as you would say, to leading better, what did that mentorship process look like?
It all comes down to a fundamental tenet, which I believe the guy's name was Maimonides or something. I never get the name pronounced right, but Maimonides' famous quote said, if you give a man a fish or a woman, give a woman a fish, she eats for one day.
Yeah.
Teach that same woman how to fish, and she eats for a lifetime. So that was really my job as a leader, was to teach my team how to fish. To teach my ladies and gentlemen how to fish.
Yeah.
And then to motivate them and inspire them to go fish.
Yeah.
And catch fish. And if they did what I told them to do, they caught a lot of fish. And they ate very well. That's something that really intrigues me. So if I am a business person and I can do a certain thing, then I'm going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm this guy, girl. I can make a lot of money doing a certain thing very well. But I can really like quadruple, 10 times, 20x my money. Imagine if I could teach 20 people what I know. My income would double, triple, quadruple, 10x.
Yeah.
If I could teach them to do it the way I know that it works.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of leadership is that it does come back to that. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach him how to fish, and he eats for a lifetime. I really do buy into that.
Yeah, and I've seen that in my own life. If you've given me sales advice and training advice, and now I've grown my team, and there were moments where it was 3 of us, and now it's 7 or 8 of us, and it's, oh man, like how do I... There's these growing pains that I'm experiencing of like, oh, now I need to manage 4 more people. But, you know, my business partner, Brad, came alongside of me, and we're figuring out together. And so it's really helpful to have someone with you in that process, and just all the advice and wisdom that you've given of don't give up, don't quit, keep going. Because it's easy to be like, man, I've never been here before. What's my next move?
Let me give you a great story. I got to get into my phone to do this the right way. So I'm at the dealership the other day. They had a celebration. This is our 50th anniversary.
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah. And so one of the sales managers, one of the guys, name's Dickie, wonderful guy. And I came up to him. I said, hey, can I get a minute? And I try not to be a big shoddy guy.
Right, yeah.
So I said, can I have a minute? I asked his permission for that minute.
Right.
And I said, here's what I did. I said, do you play music in your sales meetings? He says, no, we don't. I said, let me show you something. I said, what would happen if you started playing this at the beginning of every one of your sales meetings? Man, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
And we did that. We did that. It's in the notes. We did that. Play some pump-up music in your meetings before the meeting starts. If you want to motivate your salespeople, right?
Yeah.
Think this would work?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if not, they're just sitting there waiting, right? While we're waiting for the meeting to start.
Get it going. Look at your head. That's what Dickie was doing.
Yeah.
He said, man, that's a great idea. And it is. I love Rocky, and I played a lot of Rocky and a lot of Hoosiers and just different motivational type stuff that we knew. Some of the hockey stuff and just different melodies that got people pumped up.
Yeah,
And
because
that's a
then the
big thing.
team's excited to serve people.
Exactly.
And
So if we can get them pumped up and then have a message that's relevant, but also motivational, that's how we number one, we want to teach them how to fish, but then we want to inspire them to go do what we taught
keep
them.
fishing, yeah.
Do what we taught them. Make sense? That's leadership.
Yeah, I've never heard you talk in such a great way about, we talk a lot about sales, but I really thought it'd be important for us to touch on what does leadership look like? And so I think you did an excellent job just talking through, here's where I was, a guy just learning, and then it's not one day you woke up and you went from salesman to general sales manager. It took a process of growth in you.
I'll never forget this. I remember this. This is my early days of leadership. I remember this like it was yesterday. And my dad, I'll try to get through this.
Yeah.
My dad comes up to the office where I was, and he was sensing what I was doing, which was I was the forcing kind of leadership, the belligerent, this is the way it has to be. And he took a string, and he said, he laid it flat out on the table, on the desk, excuse me. He said, I want you to push that string across the table. So I did. He can't do it because he gets all bunched up, right?
Yeah,
I remember this like it was yesterday. And it was my dad. And he says, okay, now I want you to pull it across the table. Pull it across the table. Just fold right behind my hand.
Yeah.
Fold right behind my hand. I wish I had a string I could show you this. It's really a neat example.
Yeah. I
So
can
pulled,
visualize it.
Jim, he says, James, you call me James. James, you're pushing too hard. You got to lead. You got to pull, not push. Pull them where you want them to go. Get them to follow you.
Yes.
You could take a person and push them towards the finish line. And that would work to a degree. Or you can lead them to the finish line.
Yeah.
And it's much more effective to lead, to pull people along versus pushing them along.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's really good. Yeah. Guys, thank you just to hear Jim's just so many anecdotes and stories about what it looks like to lead. And so a big part of our mission is to help people learn how to live out their mission and learn how to rethink sales. And so you're talking about some of the ways that you thought through and rethought through your sales process as you moved from a salesperson to a general sales manager to a general manager to
the owner.
To the owner.
And I really want to make sure that we all understand really what the mission is here. And I don't know that we've made that clear enough. Okay.
But you always want to reiterate, right? People need to hear
I think
things
it is
7, 8, 9
important to reiterate this
times.
message one more time. So what happened was because of the mentors, Mr. Hamilton and John Amato and Jerry Vanderveer and my dad, all these different mentors in my life, I got to be really successful.
Yes.
And I got a lot of trophies and a lot of awards and a lot of hugs and a lot of trips and a lot of recognition, let's just say.
Sure.
But in my heart, I knew that it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was the mentors. It was the leaders, the people that gave me such great advice.
Yeah.
And I was always taking notes and always trying new things and just kept doing that. And I got to be really successful. And so as I got these awards and these plaudits and all these different things, I thought, you know what? If I take this to the grave with me, I'm a very selfish person.
Yeah.
I feel an obligation to the world at large to teach this message, to give the audience hope. There is hope. There is hope. And the things that I did, anybody could do. It's just the totality of it seems overwhelming. But if we take it piece by piece, and like I just said about the string thing, that alone would be very easy to do yourself and to say, oh, this makes sense. But it's just one piece.
Yeah.
It's just one piece.
Yeah, people
the
can
Rocky
see the
music
whole...
would be very easy. That's easy. But if you try these things in together, they have a confounding experience. The one affects the other, the other. They affect each other so that they become much more effective. So what I decided before I got out of the car business, which was 2016, this is probably 13, 14, I started talking about it. And that always is the first step, is to talk about it. And so I put it out there. My best friend, my very best friend, Bill Leader, always reminds me about this. He said, Jim, you always said you were going to do this. I remember. You said you wanted to teach. You wanted to teach. You always told me that you wanted to teach. And Bill and I are locked at the hip. Yeah. And he's right. And so the genesis of Results from Thinking and Rethink You is Chuck Molina. And Chuck just had a million questions. Like I just was consulting with Chuck, excuse me. There was no program.
Right.
There was no rethink you. There was no results from thinking. That came after. It's amazing how that happened. But what I was doing was I was consulting with Chuck, and he saw amazing results based on what I told him. And we developed this idea called the Success Blueprint, as well as the Journey to Success. So we played around with a couple different names, and it ended up, you guys changed it. To results from thinking. Or not results from thinking, to rethink you. You guys thought that was a better idea.
I'll have to tell that story.
And it's a great idea, But it just kept evolving. But the idea, I don't want to lose sight of the idea, is if there's one person out there that we can cause to make lifestyle choice changes based on this information, then we win big time. Really, from a joy perspective, not from a financial perspective. I just mean from a joy perspective. Brings me great joy. I have enough money. I do fine. I'm good. And if we can make that 10x, in other words, one person becomes 10, oh my God, 10 times the joy, or 100. And I honestly, in my heart of hearts, this isn't my goal. It's not. So please don't misinterpret this, gang. But I think it'll be 1 million. I think it'll be 1 million.
I was just talking to a guy named Skip, who I think yesterday on the phone.
We talked about it.
And he was just talking about how he loves our program and loves the process. And I said, it'll be the most helpful thing. And he said, what's that? I said, can you help get this in the hands of more people that can help? That's all we want.
That makes me cry. That really does. And it's like, it's not a financial thing. I know you think I'm this big guy. And I know you think that I'm this guru. And all I want to do is help. That's really why I'm here today, is I just want to help. And if I can help you, the listener, to make better lifestyle choices, then that's a big victory for me. And all I want to hear is your stories. I want to hear the stories. Results from thinking. Results are the name of the game. Results are the name of the game. And Rethink You very simply comes from the idea that your thinking got you to where you're at right now. And if you keep using the same thinking, you're probably not going to move. So in order to move, you got to change your thinking. Hence, Rethink You.
Hence, change the way you think, get the results.
Exactly.
You want.
So
Jim,
that's the mission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Leave us comments, feedback below. If you haven't yet, subscribe on YouTube.
Please.
We've been gaining subscribers. And again, the goal is not to just gain the numbers, but to help one more person.
Let's face it, we don't know who that one more person is. We just don't know. And who do you eliminate? You say, we got 10 today, that's enough. What if number 11 was the one that needed saved the most? And I mean saved in terms of they're really struggling. That one is way more important than the other 10. So we don't want to miss that one. It's always going to be about one person. And if it is 10 and it's a potential to be 11, then if it is 11, it's a potential to be 111. That's our mission. But it's not about high volume and bonuses and money and all that. It's truly not. I mean that. I'm doing fine. I really am, as a result of things that I did in my past.
And you want to pass them on.
I do.
That's
I really
a true
do.
mentor.
I really sincerely do.